So what is something that you've been praying for like forever? And you're starting to grow weary of it, and you're thinking about maybe I should just stop. God's not going to answer this prayer. I love to give you this fresh new perspective that I learned, because I got a lot of those prayers that haven't been answered, about why you should keep going, even maybe a little bit extra new motivation to keep pushing and keep praying on that prayer.
So something you've been praying for months, years, decades? What is a long time? Years.
Well, for this woman, it was 12 years.
12 years. And we're talking about who?
The woman who reached out to touch Jesus in the Bible.
So she had been praying for healing for over a decade, 12 years, and she hadn't received any response. Right?
Right.
Kind of like what sometimes we go through, where we're praying for something over and over again, whether it's for healing, financial relief, relationship, or whatever. We're not seeing any breakthroughs. And we're like, you know what? I just don't think it's going to happen. So you're throwing your hands at in the air, and you've lost all faith that it's ever going to happen.
I think I did that with getting remarried. I thought maybe I would convince myself, I was like, maybe I'm just praying the wrong thing. Like, God just evidently doesn't want me to be married. So I just focused on being really independent. But I still know that that's a desire of my heart that I have, that I battle with. Because I think, well, but God gives us those desires for a reason. And we are his children. And he wants to do those things for us. Do you have anything like that you've just been praying constantly for?
Well, similarly,
maybe I think sometimes we give them up and then we resurrect the prayer again.
True story. I mean, when I was in my 20s, I wasn't married, and I knew that I wanted to be married and have kids. But I didn't lose faith, because I knew God was going to fulfill that at some point in my life. But it took a little bit longer than some people for that to happen.
Yeah.
But it was a struggle. It was a struggle, just like any people, most single people, where you're like, oh my gosh. But I'm so thankful I waited and have had faith in God and didn't try to go up faster than his timeline, because when I had faith in him and trusted him, he provided the perfect person that would fulfill all my needs.
There you go.
And so it was rewarding that I continued to have faith.
And you mentioned faith, and that is what I think is the key. When you're having, you're feeling those feelings of wanting to quit on asking God for something that it's a true desire in your life, that he wants to give us those desires. But sometimes it's about, do we truly believe that he can answer that prayer? And it was like, that emoji, the exploding head emoji?
Yeah.
That's what happened to me when I read this. I took some notes. So the story is an old Bible story I learned as a kid about the woman, and she doesn't even get a name in the Bible, but she was hemorrhaging, it said. So she had some female problems. She was bleeding for like 12 years. And she'd been to many doctors, and it said she had spent all her money and still wasn't healed. So then she heard about this man that was healing people, and he was drawing these huge crowds. So she said, well, then obviously that's where I need to go to get healing. She had faith. She believed that if she just got there to see Jesus, she would be healed. And there was this huge crowd. And I imagine she must have been really frail and not feeling very good if she'd been going through this for 12 years. So she fights through that, fights through the crowd, gets close to Jesus. Jesus is talking to somebody else. I think it was a rabbi that he was speaking to in some versions of the story. And she didn't care. And she reached out and just touched his robe. And she was healed. And Jesus turns around and says, who just touched me? And in some versions, he says, I felt the power go out of me.
And the disciples were like, no, what are you talking about? You're in the middle of a crowd. Lots of people are touching you. And you're getting rubbed up against a lot of people. But he knew specifically, no. There was somebody that was unique, somebody different that touched me, because like you said, I felt it.
And she was healed. And she said, it was me. And then, this is obviously the Amanda and Matt paraphrase. And then he said, it is because of your faith that you were healed. And she was healed. It's because she was convinced in her mind that just being close to Jesus and reaching out and touching him, she would be healed of her bleeding disorder. And she was. And here's this fresh perspective on, because I never really thought, how's that apply to me? I can't reach out and touch the robe of Jesus right now. If there's something that you want in your life. Well, this said the crowd that she fought through, it represents your broken dreams. that you have to be more determined than what is against you to get that healing, to get that prayer answered, like she was. It was an act of faith that she did to get healed. And you have to have made up your mind that you're not going to allow the mistakes you've made. For me, it was like going through a divorce. Maybe I didn't earn, having a marriage again. Maybe there was something I did wrong. The guilt, the regrets to hold you back. You can't do that. And it was about, also said, don't just brush up against God in those moments where you need him to answer a prayer. Reach out and touch him like that woman that was healed. I think often we kind of brush up against God. We're like, well, I went to church, or every once in a while I do all the right things. That's kind of, I think, brushing up. But to truly live your life and have that quiet time in the mornings where you're really speaking out of your heart to God, to me, that's not just brushing up against him. That's the relationship part that he wants, that woman knew.
Right. And I also appreciate the fact that she didn't sit at home waiting for Jesus to walk by her house or where she was at. She went out and pursued him.
Yep.
And so oftentimes that's what Jesus is looking for. He's looking, are you going to pursue me? Because it's about a relationship, honestly.
Yeah.
And so are you going to pursue me? Are you going to show me that you're hungry and that you're going to be bold in your faith? She had to be pretty bold in her faith to do what she did. It's one thing to have faith, but are you bold in your faith? Are you willing to go out and put yourself out there in the middle of a crowd where everybody, even the disciples, I believe, were like shooing her away, like, get away. He doesn't have time for you. Are you willing to be bold and say, no, this is my Savior. I know what he's willing to do. And so I'm hungering after that. I'm pursuing God.
Yeah.
So that I think is important too.
Yeah, I don't want you to feel like, oh, maybe I haven't been bold enough. That's why. I don't think that's not what we're saying. I think it's just
being bold in your faith.
It's convincing yourself. It's not about how God chooses. I think it's about convincing yourself and having that close relationship with him, that it is possible.
Right. But like you were saying, sometimes the voices of the crowd or the voices of the people can distract you, and you get a little bit more reserved about what people think. But in those situations, we have to be, bold, and we have to say, no, this is what I believe. This is my faith, is my foundation, and my relationship with God is what I'm hungering after. And when I do that, then great things are going to be, God's will is going to be done in your life. Great things are going to happen. And I've seen that in my life. You've seen that in your life, right?
Absolutely.
You can testify to that.
Yeah. Well, I think about the fact that I'm still in my home. I thought I was going to lose my home at one point when I lost a job. And I had all this little blue tape, painter's tape on some furniture. Because I was going to have some friends come and remove some of the extra furniture so we could list it up for sale. Because I was like, well, I'm not going to be able to do this anymore. And I had a good friend that is extremely spiritual and connected to God. And she just said, hey, didn't you pray for this house?
Love it.
Didn't you think that God gave you this house? Did you praise him and thank him? I said, yeah, I did. I thought it was an answer to prayer. And she's like, don't you think he's going to give you a way to keep it?
Love it.
It was an act of faith that
cool.
I then ran around the house, and together, I remember we ripped off that blue tape of all the furniture. We're like, no,
that is so cool. I love that story.
We're going to believe that God is going to give us a way to stay in that house, and I'm still in it.
That's so cool. I love that story.
Longest
That's so
I've
awesome.
ever lived anywhere.
Yeah.
So don't give up. Just take off that blue tape.
That's right. That's right. That's good, Amanda.
We love you, our Fish fam. Would love for you to listen tomorrow. You are going to hear on the show from Joel, from Luke.
He's the tall one with the curly hair.
For King and Country. His acceptance speech at the Dove Awards will be another reason why it will inspire you to persevere and to believe no matter what you are going through. Thanks for watching, our Fish fam. We love you so much.
And the guy behind us is Mike Wilson. Middays.
You see Mike in there?
Behind me.
And we'd love for you to share this video with your friends and invite them to listen to the Fish. You are our best marketing piece.
You're our only marketing piece. Let's be real here.
Honest.
We don't got a big budget.
Our budget is 0. So thank you for sharing. Bye. Woo!